The way to dispel darkness is to admit light. The way to deal with error is to present the truth by the grace of God. You see, man's destiny will be determined by his obedience to the whole law. Let me put a full stop. In and of ourselves, can we keep God's law? Yes or no?
No.
We can't. But through Christ, is it possible?
Yes.
It is. Supreme love to God, and what kind of love to man? Impartial love to man are the principles to be wrought out in the life. Jesus has promised that he can bring about that transformation in our lives, even though we might look like caterpillars spiritually. He can enable us to be that beautiful butterfly. You see, when we think of this story, this was actually an incident that really took place. The priest and the Levite that had walked on were in that very group hearing the words of Christ. Doesn't it say in Luke, if you turn in your Bibles to Luke chapter 4, verse 18. Luke chapter 4, verse 18. Doesn't the Bible tell us? The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He hath sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives, and recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised. We saw that in the fulfillment of the Son of God walking upon this earth for 33 and a half years. When you turn to Deuteronomy chapter 10, what does God tell us regarding the stranger? If you turn to Deuteronomy chapter 10, verses 17 to 19. Deuteronomy chapter 10, verses 17 to 19. What was the lesson that God wanted to teach his people? In verse 17, the Bible reads, "For the Lord your God is God of gods and Lord of lords, a great God, a mighty and a terrible, which regardeth not persons nor taketh reward." Then he goes on to say in verse 18, "He doth execute judgment of the fatherless and the widow." But what does it say next? "And loveth the stranger, in giving him" what? "Food and raiment." Verse 19, "Love ye therefore the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt." May we never forget the beautiful lesson of what God has done for us. I asked the question, why are you here in this church? My answer, I'm here in this church because I saw the love of Christ in others. People that regarded me as another human being equal to them. People that sacrificed for me. I remember one particular brother who lives in southeast London. He would drive all the way from southeast London, all the way to West London. I used to live in Acton. Pick me up, take me all the way back to southeast London, have a Bible study, then drive me all the way back home. I said, "Wow, can I offer you something?" He said, "No, that's okay." It was an act of love. I heard many scriptures as a prodigal son. I heard many scriptures, but it was the acts of love that motivated me, that inspired me. So I'm asking the same question. Who inspired you? What brought you? Who brought you? The circumstances that brought you into the church today. And if you can all agree that it was nothing other than the goodness of God that has brought you into the church, may we never forget how we was dealt with, so that when we deal with others, that same love can be applied.
Okay.
Jesus revealed this story. The Samaritan, let's find out a little bit about him. He was going about his journey. He came where the sufferer was. Notice the priest, the Levite, they saw this man, but chose not to attend to his urgent needs. But the Samaritan, when he saw him, he had compassion on him. If the roles were reversed, if it were that the circumstances were changed, if a Jew, the Samaritan well knew this, that the man would spit in his face and pass him by with contempt. But the Samaritan did not hesitate on account of this. In other words, he didn't think what the reversal would have been. Instead, he did not consider that he himself might be in danger of violence by tarrying in the place. Did Jesus risk for you and me?
Yes.
Are there risks when we are outdoor? Can there be risks? He didn't consider himself or his own life. You see, it was enough that there was before him a human being in need and suffering. So the Samaritan took off his own garment and covered this man. The oil and the wine was provided for his own journey. He used instead to heal and refresh the wounded man. He lifted that man on his own beast and moved slowly. Do you know why he moved slowly? This is the level of detail. This is the level of detail, beloved. He moved slowly along so that the stranger might not be jarred and made to suffer increased pain. How do we engage with others? Do we jar people instead of giving them a blessing? Do they experience pain as a result of our engagement with them? It goes on. He didn't stop there. He took him to an inn and cared for him through the night, watching him tenderly. And in the morning, on top of that, as the sick man had improved, the Samaritan ventured to go on his way. But before he did, he said to the innkeeper, the charges, and if there's any additional charges, leave with me. He left a deposit for this man's benefit. And not even satisfied even with this, he made provision for any further needs, saying to the host, take care of him, and whatsoever thou spendest more, when I come again, I will repay thee. Isn't that powerful?
Yeah. Super.
It's a simple story, but it's a profound story. And it's a template of how we should be with the Spirit of God unto others. Jesus fixed his eyes upon the lawyer in a glance that seemed to read the lawyer's soul, and said, which of these three thinkest thou proved neighbour unto him that fell among the robbers? Luke 10:36. In Desire of Ages, page 503, it says, the lawyer would not even now take the name Samaritan upon his lips. And he made the answer, he that showed mercy on him. Jesus said, go and do likewise. Sometimes is that difficult for us? Are there brothers and sisters where we jar, grate against each other? We can't even say their name. Maybe we don't even pray for them. Is that us? Is that the love of Christ? You see, the Samaritan had obeyed the dictates of a kind and loving heart, and in this had proved himself a doer of the law. Christ bade the lawyer, go and do thou likewise. You see, many who profess his name have lost sight of the fact that Christians are to represent Christ. Unless there is a practical self-sacrifice for the good of others, in the family circle, in the neighborhood, in the church, and wherever we may be, then whatever our profession, we're not Christians. It's a strong statement, but it's a true statement. When the love of Christ is in our heart, we cannot keep that love to ourselves. It's impossible. We will want to share it with others. Speak words of faith and courage, Desire of Ages 504, that will be as a healing balsam to the bruised and wounded one. Are there many wounded people around us, beloved? Even within our circles. We all need healing. Many have fainted and become discouraged in the great struggle of life. How are people faring today, beloved? Mortgage rates coming down, base rates, yes or no?
No.
3 million people are going to struggle over the next few months because they've come out of a mortgage deal that was competitive. Now they're going to have to deal with a higher rate. But it's not just those with home ownership.